big group of guys, just I guess living out their geek dreams. So pretty much that's it.
The league has been very tumultuous since its inception.
Well, a brief history of the league would be we all got together, $30 a person, then it evolved to $100 a person plus crazy league fees that Jason Rossi wanted. And it cost money to trade, all of a sudden, $2 per trade. And people came and went. Joe came and went because of personal issues. It's weird, I don't know.
The first year, I think it was our inaugural year. I think everyone was just feeling it out. I know I, for one, didn't know too much about the statistical part of the game at the time, and I assume that a lot of the others didn't either. But we got a feel for the league that year. We got to know each other all a lot better.
Well, after the league got started, the first year was an absolute mess. People didn't know anything about football. Half the people didn't know what was going on.
First year was just a lot of people just rookies. First year playing, I believe it was Kevin first year, Pachi, a couple other ones, but Pachi always had his memorable picking the Patriots first in the first third overall in the first round, which is unheard of in the universe.
Quick little story is that we were going to do the draft at the time my work, which I kind of got grandfathered in from my father at Modern Continental in Cambridge, doing a draft on Memorial Drive. And Pachi comes up to my car. We all met at Hunt's. That's hence the name of this league. It's the Hunt's Fantasy Football League. We played football at Hunt's in Melrose, and so we all went there to meet up. And Pachi came up to me, he goes, "Hey, so how does it work with the defense?" And I was like, "Oh, you pick an entire team's defense." In his face, he went like this. "You get to pick an entire team's defense?" So basically, break it down. He took a defense in the first round, which is just a big no-no for all you non-fantasy people out there and women. Now I'm being disrespectful.
And I should have known right then that he's the biggest idiot on the face of the planet.
League champions, of course. Frankie was the first.
Frank actually ended up going on to play Rossi in the championship. Quite a matchup. I think it was a very fitting matchup for the first year, and Frank, as we all know, ended up winning.
Frank was the champion that year. He was our first champion. And then
second year, some controversy that year. Marco couldn't afford it because he went to Vegas, and we all know how that went. And so we got a new member, Pat, a good friend of Jason, now a good friend of all of ours. And championship that year, again, more controversy.
There was a tie in the championship between Sean Chase and Billy Delaney.
we weren't prepared for that, obviously, and oh well. We worked it out, though.
And then Pat.
Me and Pat in the championship.
Pat's team won it.
I was over at Marina's house watching the duel, and I get a call from Pachi saying that I had won the... actually, what he said was, I want to know... he said, I want a crispy chicken sandwich from Wendy's or something. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you just won the Fantasy Football League. I was like, oh, wow, great. And then, it was one of the greatest days of my life.
I don't even know, what was the question again?
The most memorable moments, though, over those 3 years, I'd have to say, mostly belong to me, I think. But I don't know, it's kind of tough to say. I liked the banquet the first year, that was great. Banquet last year was great. There's so many little feuds and, little things that...
First 3 years, the one thing I can recall is me and Joe were at a party. Joe was having a couple drinks. I thought it was apple juice, water, soda maybe. Apparently it wasn't, because we made a trade, but it was just a completely lopsided trade. I got real excited because I figured, hey, it was my shot, took it. Trade was accepted, it was going through, and then the trade got vetoed because of drunkenness. Joe was drunk, apparently. I didn't know. When he fell over, I thought he just tripped. But that's pretty much, that's one of the things that I remember mostly. Anything else?
First big thing, it's Jason Donato Rossi versus the league. Doesn't matter what it is. First year, try to change the kicker points without telling us. You just don't change things mid-year. So we got a whole big argument. Frank actually was a big opponent to that. He wanted to keep things how it was.
I would talk for hours if we were going to sit here and talk about the first 3 years. Are you crazy? I'd be a days and nights ranting and raving. It's getting better and better every year.
A good memory of Frank in the league was
One night, New Orleans was playing somebody, and we were talking online, and he was freaking out because he needed a big game for Drew Brees. This was the first year. This was actually the year that he won it, and he needed like 5 touchdowns and 400 yards and all this stuff. And I was like, Frank, don't worry about it. It's gonna happen. And usually my guarantee is the kiss of death, but it happened for him. And I just remember him being online with me the entire game, just typing and getting so excited. And it was just a really fun memory of me and Frank just talking online.
Frank's always been a man who's known how to use words, and basically, I always looked at him as someone you probably don't want to go after if you're really trying to call somebody out. I know I didn't really think of him as somebody I'd really want to get into a beef with. I've seen a few times some people take shots at him on the message boards, I guess, and get thoroughly embarrassed. And it's just he knew how to speak, and he knew how to make you feel bad. So other than that, a personal thing I remember just in between me and him, I think we only got to play each other I think just twice. I think I missed him on the schedule one of the years, but I ended up beating him by the 1 point, and then I think it was our first ever Tuesday morning screw job, and the points just were totally reversed. I had lost by 1 point. I was so furious. I think it might have ended my season that year. It's the first year. It was a long way ago, but yeah, that's my my deepest memory of him in the league. Yeah.
I always appreciated Frank critiquing Chase for his lack of grammar, we'll say, and Frank had a lot of he wasn't really a trash talker on the board so much as maybe a Jimmy Holland or John Gillette, or Pachi or Marco running their mouth all the time. But whenever he posted something on the boards, it was pretty thought out. Made a lot of sense for whatever he was talking about. So the thoughtful post.
Frank on the boards, ripping Sean Chase. Anything Sean Chase had to say, Frank would come back. He would point out every misspelling. He would point out everything, and he would just completely demolish the kid and made him look like an idiot all the time.
Frank's posts, I'm sure everyone has said this by now, but Frank's posts were by far the best. When he would go up against Sean Chase in a verbal battle on the boards, Chase's would be just one paragraph, misspelled, no punctuation. It looks like a 3-year-old wrote Chase's post, and then Frankie would post in reply, blow Chase out of the water, just long, to the point, perfect grammar, everything was beautiful. A little sarcasm in there as well, but that's fine. That's just who he was. And then the posts mostly.
Even though it was always him making fun of me when I was writing my posts or whatever, he wanted me to do a draft, read it over, maybe have someone else read it over, do that whole 5-page, the 5 parts of it, then actually type it up. But I didn't. It doesn't matter. It was a fun little thing going back and forth about no punctuations and everything. It's always funny to see his comeback.
It's hard to say. I mean, one distinct memory I have, I guess, it was one day we were going to Frank's house, but it was after he had his he was released from the hospital and everything, and he was cleared to see people. So we went and saw him on his front porch, and I think I forget what trade or transaction went on, but I believe it was Bill that he looked at, and he just walked up and he looked at Bill and he said, "What were you thinking? You're unbelievable." And we just for about the first hour we were sitting outside on his porch just ripping about this whatever ridiculous transaction went on. And I mean, after all he'd been through, the first things that we were raving about with a football league. So
I think it was great that he was the first winner of this league. But some of my favorite memories has to be on the boards. Those boards, at sometimes they're on fire. We have 20 messages in one day, people going back and forth, and Frank, we all remember Frank. He was a very good writer, and he would just rip people apart, Sean Chase mostly. But he would just rip people apart on the boards because, not many people could write the way he wrote. He wrote basically novels and just ripped you apart with words that you didn't even understand. You probably have to go look them up on dictionary.com. I know I did sometimes.
Some of the things with Frank is